Hey everyone, SunTide here. Hope you all are doing great. So, for the last couple of weeks, I've been doing a bit of a deep dive into Element in Monster Hunter Wilds to try and figure out what the best skills are, to try and figure out what the best builds are, to try and improve our damage as much as we can, considering and taking into account how much damage Element really does. And so one of the skills that I found most interesting when I was digging into it was this skill called Convert Element. So what this skill does is it seems to greatly increase your dragon elemental damage. So thought, well, this skill is probably going to be a shoo-in if you want to use dragon damage, right? Wrong. Completely wrong. And wrong in really weird ways is what I found out. See, Convert Element seems to scale not with Element, but with Raw, which sounds completely baffling. So I did a lot of research and checked into this skill, did a lot of testing myself, saw data mines and whatever else. And today I'm just going to basically present the results of this deep dive into Convert Element to try and figure out and establish exactly how Convert Element works. Okay? But before that, how should it work? Like, what should Convert Element actually do? So if you just read the in-game description, which you can see on screen as well here, so what it should do is, after taking element damage, it temporarily grants you dragon element effects, it calls it. It's very vague, incredibly vague. It gives at least some detail under the level 1 text. So what it says is 1, deals extra dragon damage after dealing enough elemental damage, and 2, slightly increases dragon attack. So this makes it seem really, really good for element builds, right? Because, again, more dragon attack, always good. And 2, it seems to scale with increased element damage. So maybe the more element damage you do, the better it is, right? Yeah, no, that part is straight up a lie. So here's what it really does. 1, after being hit by enough element attacks, including by guarding, so if you use a lance, you should be fine to activate the skill even if you take no damage. So for 2 minutes and with a 1.5 minute cooldown, so 1, if you have dragon element on your weapon, you increase your element by 8, 12, or 18. This is pre-bloated, so 80, 120, or 180. And secondly, if you have any element at all, doesn't need to be dragon, so an element, so dragon, fire, water, thunder, or ice, you intermittently deal straight 150, 200, 280 damage, depending on the level, so this is always there. And in addition to that, you also deal extra dragon damage as if you had 60, 80, or 100. Now this value is also pre-bloat, so this is 600, 800, or 1000, which is massive. So the first boost is nice, like it's worth considering. That's going to be an extra couple of points per hit if a monster is somewhat dragon-like. The second thing is massive though. At level 1, that's still going to be like 160, 170 damage, which is nice. And at later levels gets even higher. So it's the second thing we're really going to be focused on. Now, the question is then, how do we actually activate that damage? So, the thing is, and what I found out is that Convert Element seems to act as a status. So status is how they work in brief, is monsters all have a resistance, and there's some sort of invisible counter. When you deal enough status damage, the status activates, and every time it activates, the monster gets a bit more resistance until it hits some maximum value. So in the data mines, in the code, this resistance seems to be called SkillRyuki. I did some Japanese in high school, and from what I recall, Ryu means dragon. So I was like, oh yeah, sort of makes sense for a dragon element skill. And a training dummy at base has a resistance of 500 plus 250 for every proc, and it maxes out at 1500. This is at base, so higher level training dummies, so if you change the scaling, it'll always start at 500, but the value increases by also increases. I don't know exactly how much increases by. I need to do a full status deep dive for that, but at level 1, this is how it works. And yeah, like other statuses, you can build this up after dealing certain attacks. Unlike status, this isn't RNG, this doesn't, so status only activates around 1/3 of the time, I believe. This works every single time, so there's that, but only on certain attacks. So special attacks, stuff like the Longsword Spirit Blade, do not activate Convert Element. You need to use normal attacks, like your Thrust or your Overhead Slash for Longsword. Different weapons have different attacks that don't activate this skill. So, I did my testing, and what I found is that the things that make Convert Element activate more frequently are your raw, are when you land critical hits, are the motion values over your attacks, and your convert element level. These are all raw focus things. So these are all things you would increase if you increase your raw if you focus on raw, except for convert element level. Meanwhile, things that don't affect convert element activating is element, so the text straight up lies. 2, sharpness. 3, hits and values, and 4, your weapons. This is independent of every weapon, so whether it's a greatsword or a bow, the threshold build-up is exactly the same. Because of this, high raw weapons are going to be much better for activating the skill than high element focused weapons, which is crazy to me. So yeah, better on the greatsword than it is on the bow, which is surprising. I'll just quickly show you what I mean. So we'll do some testing. So right now I'm going to equip the skill convert element and 1 point of attack boost. So right now I have a raw of 199 and element of 330. When I activate the skill, I'll get my little dragon bonus. So I go from 330 to 410. And I'm going to do a charge slash level 1 and a charge slash level 2. So I'll do 207.4 damage. And at level 2, I do 262 damage, and you saw the nice 168 damage proc. So I did 469.5 damage before the proc, and I got 168 damage proc after it. So 1, that's a pretty solid damage boost. 2, it activated pretty quickly, and yeah, it activated after only 2 hits. So now I'm going to have to leave the training room to reset the monster's status resistance. Yeah, this is the best way I found out to reset the monster's threshold buildup. I'm not sure if there's a better way than this. And let's try and decrease my raw a bit. I'm just going to remove the skill attack boost. So now I have only convert element and nothing else. Everything else is going to be exactly the same. I'm going to activate the skill. You can see that my raw is now 196, which is a tiny bit lower. And when I do this, target slash 1 and charge slash 2. No activation, but if I do anything at all, if I do another small attack, I get the proc off, 168 damage. So that's cool. Now, let's try doing a bit more element instead of a bit more raw. And so, the thing is that just because of how element scaling works, and because I have Dragon Attack 3, which is a lot of more Dragon elements, I'm going to be doing more damage here than I did with Attack Boost 1. And so from this, if either your damage or your element damage affects the proc, this should activate after the 2 hits. If it's raw only that's needed, then this should not activate. And let's see this. Okay, so in the last run I forgot to turn the skill on. But as you can see, I have 536 element now, which is a massive bonus. So let's go. Charge slash level 1, 208.8 damage. Charge slash level 2, 263.2 damage. Big bonus increase, did not activate the proc. Now let's do a tiny bit more damage, and now activate the proc, 168 damage. That's one more interesting thing as well though. So as you saw, the bonus damage I got from the proc was exactly the same, whether or not I had the skill Dragon Attack. So even with the skill Dragon Attack, Dragon did not increase the damage of the convert element, which is really surprising. So not only does Dragon Attack 1 not increase the frequency of the props, it too does not even increase damage of the props. So Dragon Attack and Convert Element have no synergy at all. So yeah, this skill is way better on raw focused builds than it is on element focused builds, which is crazy and surprising to me. The last thing I'm going to show you, this is going to be the Convert Element 2. So here, my element is going to be a tiny bit higher, but at level 2, I'm going to be able to have just enough build up that I'm going to be able to get the proc off on this second hit. And there you go. It was a nice bigger damage number as well because I had the level 2 version of the skill. Now, one more thing I want to emphasize though is that there is the scaling. So if I do the exact same combo I did before, so charge slash level 1, then charge slash level 2, it's not going to activate. But one more, or I think maybe 2 more, it should be enough. So the scaling does increase, and it depends on the monster's level. So, after all of my digging, I was able to create this formula, which to my understanding is fully accurate and matches some of the values we see in the data mine itself. So it seems like the status build-up you do is going to be your raw attack times the motion value of your attack times your critical modifier times another modifier for your level of combat element, all divided by 100. The combat element modifier is going to be 1.1, 1.15, or 1.2, depending on your level. So some sample calculations are on screen right now. So the reason I'll be doing charge slash level 1 and charge slash level 2 together is that they add up to 230 in terms of motion values. And so in my base build with no attack boost, 196 attack, my overall build up is going to be 495, which is just under the 500 threshold to activate the skill on this monster. However, if I do a tiny bit more attack, I go past 500, which is why it activated. Alternatively, if I get another level of convert element, I increase the convert element modifier, and so I get a tiny bit more build up that way, and so activate the skill with either attack boost or another level of convert element. Element boosts, so dragon attack, have no effect in this formula at all. So yeah, I'm pretty sure this is the actual formula the game uses to calculate how convert element works, which I don't think anyone has discussed before. So a quick little bonus that I think was pretty weird and funny is that, yeah, it does not matter what the monster's hit zones are, like, at all. So if I attack the back of the monster and say, okay, so say I make the monster hard and I activate the skill and I make the monster 7 stars. Okay, so the first proc is always going to be the same whether I hit the back or not. So there's charge slash 1, and here's charge slash level 2, and I get the proc off when I bounce off the back. So if a monster has harder hit zones, then this skill gets even better, which is really cool and weird. The other thing is that the scaling is much higher if the monster's level is higher. So there's the level 2 charge slash. So this one should have activated the proc if it's scaled like level 1, but it did not. I'm going to need many, many more hits to activate the proc because the monster is scaled so highly. So because of that, yeah, this skill could be less good against stronger monsters, but as long as it activates a tiny bit, that's pretty significant, right? So late game, a lot of monsters have between 20 or 30,000 health. So if each proc is 170 damage or so, then getting 2 procs is going to be a solid 1.5% damage boost overall. If you get, say, 4 procs, that's going to be 3% damage boost for a single point in a skill, which is substantial. I don't know how lucky it is to get 4 procs yet. I don't know how much that compares to status bonuses, but on paper, it seems very, very, very strong. So my overall summary and conclusions are basically that, yeah, Convert Element is a damage boosting skill that scales off raw, not element, but it does require you to have at least some element, which means it's competitive and it competes with status. Which is better? I don't know yet. It needs a bigger deep dive into how status works and how status scales. But as it is, it seems to be pretty strong and pretty decent. And I don't think anyone else that I've seen online has spoken about how it scales with raw, not element. A friend did point me to this Reddit post, which seemed to be on the right track, but a lot of the responses didn't seem to be agreeing with them, which was surprising. But yeah, so aside from this video, I've also written it up, and that should be on Mobalytics. So check that out if you want to see a full text breakdown of this, and my text version of this if you want to send it out a bit more easier. And yeah, with that being said, I'd like to thank all of you for watching. I'd like to thank all of my Patreon supporters, especially Hunter Finney, who is in my highest supporter tier, along with the Mobalytics, who have the text version of this video. So after this video, I'll probably end up going to status, just because status is very important to understand this skill and therefore element. And I think status will be a bit more generally interesting for a lot of people. So status will probably be next, and then I'll pivot from that to builds for both element and status. So yeah, with that being said, I'd like to thank you all for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one, where we start talking about status and status scaling. So yeah, bye.